All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as John Lynch held court in Indy, and he said a lot of things, and I think maybe the entire Niner audience missed maybe the biggest thing. So we'll get into that right now. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California is Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're soon to open in Petaluma. That's right. And they're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And they do run out. So get there early, get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. We should also tell you that Pig and a Pickle, go say hi to Damon and Mary, of course, their brand new location. We should also tell you about our good friends at Sleeper. 49er football season is presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chat, season-long leagues, and of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy. Use promo code Larry. Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Links in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, John Lynch held court with national media and assorted local media in attendance there in Indy. I was not in Indy, so I did not get to ask a question. And the Niners put the entire presser out today, and I had a chance to go with a fine-tooth comb and listen to every syllable of this thing. And I don't want to say that the people that were there missed it, but they missed it. I mean, from what I can tell, they missed the big story. Here is the big story. Vic Tafur asked John Lynch. Now, there were a number of questions. We'll get into all of it. But Vic Tafur asked John Lynch about a major need for the 49ers, wide receiver. And listen to what Lynch says here. We're going to share the screen, and you can listen to what Lynch says in his own words. And then we will come back and decipher this. You would have thought that this would have brought significant headlines yesterday, but it really didn't. And for whatever reason, it hasn't this morning. So I don't know if people just listened to what was released and didn't go through it and listen to it all. But here's John Lynch. Vic Tafur just asked the question, how about your wide receiver core? And here's what Lynch had to say about it.
Yeah. So, obviously you got, like Jauan's a free agent, and we've been in good contact with Jauan. We'll see where that goes. We've got some young players that we're really we really need to come to the forefront. Jacob Cowing's a guy that we've had and we like for a couple of years. He hasn't been able to be on the field much because of his hamstring ailments. Ricky's a fantastic player. We got to find a way to keep him healthy. He had a tough injury early, and he kept dinging the same thing over and over and over. And it was a tough year for him. Ricky's going to be a fine player. Jordan Watkins has to take big steps. And then we've got opportunities to improve ourselves by either bringing back some of the players who have been with us or go finding new guys that fit who we want to be and what we want to be, both in free agency and in the draft.
So there you go. There's the answer in full. And basically just let's recap what he said there. I mean, to me, this is pretty interesting stuff. He started off with Jauan Jennings as a free agent, and we'll see where that goes. We all know how he feels about Jauan. We all know how Shanahan feels about Jauan, but we also know what Jauan's market is. And there's a high likelihood that he walks away in free agency because he gets an offer that the Niners aren't going to match or aren't going to get close to. And so I think that's why Jennings seemed weepy in this final day in the locker room, because I think he wants to be a Niner and he realizes it's probably not going to happen. But it's not dead because Lynch and Shanahan are the decision makers and they love this player. And we don't know how much Jennings wants to be a Niner. Maybe he wants to be a Niner so much that he's willing to take 18 instead of 20. Maybe he wants to be a Niner so much that he's willing to take 16.5 for 3 years as opposed to 22 for 2 years. I don't know. I don't know what's going through his head. I don't know what his mindset is, and we don't know who's going to bid. Does Tennessee, who's got the most cap room, come knocking for JJ? Possibly, and if so, that's a return to where he's very popular. He's a hero in the state of Tennessee from playing with the Vols and being a great player for the Vols. So maybe that's what he wants. But he seems like such a competitor that he seems like he wants to win a Super Bowl, and playing on the horrible Titans with a young quarterback and a kind of a rebuilding situation doesn't seem like what JJ would want. So What's he going to do? Is he going to take less to stay with the Niners, or is he going to move on? So that was the first name he mentioned. Then he mentioned Jacob Cowing, Jordan Watkins, and Ricky Pearsall as 3 young guys that they need to get more out of. Then, obviously we know, the avenues that you can improve the team. It's not like, oh, what is this thing of the draft that you're discussing? What's this free agent period you're discussing? We all get it, right? We've been doing this for a long time. Every NFL team has free agency or the draft. So that doesn't even need to be stated. But then John said, but we could bring back players that have been with us before. That's the line that I gravitated towards. And to me, that's the newsmaker. Now, let's review the wide receivers that they've had that they could bring back. Do you think they're going to bring back, I don't know, Danny Gray? No. Richie James? No. Dante Pettis? No. Jalen Hurd? No. Emmanuel Sanders? No. Ronnie Bell? No. So who are they bringing back? Deebo Samuel. John just told us they're bringing back Deebo Samuel. You don't go there down that road. Well, we may bring back a guy who's been here before, unless, and this is the 3rd or 4th time we've heard this little nugget. We heard this from Kittle. Hey, maybe we'll bring back. They're bringing Deebo back to the 49ers. That's my takeaway. Deebo Samuel is going to have a second stint with the Niners. Put it down. Now, what did he do last year with the Commanders? He caught 72 balls for 727 yards and 5 touchdowns. Those were his stats. Not bad. Not bad. Played 16 games, 72 catches. Hadn't caught 72 balls since 2021 when he caught 77. It was the second most receptions of his entire career. It was also the second most targets of his career. He was targeted in 2021 121 times. The Commanders targeted him 99 times. 727 yards, which is, let's see, he's had 1, 2, 3 years better than that. 10.1 yards per catch, 5 touchdowns. His 5 touchdowns were his most since 2023, 3rd most ever for him. So he had a pretty productive year. Had 1 fumble. So there you go. That to me is the news. You want to get news out of the Lynch presser? There it is. They're bringing back 30-year-old Deebo Samuel for a second stint. It's happening. It's happening. He just said it. He basically just said it. So that's the big takeaway from the Lynch presser. Let's go through some of the other takeaways that we had from the presser. Okay, here are the main takeaways. 1, Trent Williams' contract needs to be restructured. It's not done yet. They haven't agreed to it. He hasn't agreed to it. They want him back. Lynch says that, he loves them. They love him. Lynch is even talking about the potential to extend. Well, you're going to have to extend. There's only one way to restructure. There's really only 2 ways to restructure. It's restructure where we're working together, where you extend me, give me more guaranteed dollars, extend me deeper into the future, and I get some benefit from the extension, or the extension, or the, against your will kind of a thing. Like, hey, this is going down whether you like it or not. And that's guys who have no leverage. The team can do whatever they want. Team players that have leverage, like Trent Williams, well, not so much. He can just say, go fly a kite. But if the Niners want to take his big cap number for 2026 and shrink it down, they're probably going to have to spread it out, which means adding more money, which means you're either going to pay this guy deeper into the future, and he's 38, which complicates things, which Lynch referenced, or you're probably going to have a mountain of dead cap at the end with you keep kicking the can down the road, and eventually he's not going to play, and then you're still going to have the bill to pay him. So I'm sure the Niners want to minimize that and see if they could get Trent to come back on a more team-friendly deal. But Trent, it's supply and demand, and Trent's still one of the best tackles in football, and the Niners don't have a replacement ready, and so they have no leverage. They have no replacement, and so they're over a barrel. So he's probably going to get what he wants. So, yes, when Lynch says, yeah, we may restructure, the rest of us here, no, my God, you don't want to restructure a 38-year-old guy and extend his career when he's already played his best football and he may be done in a year. And you're going to be stuck with lots of dead cap because of it. So they have to be really prudent in the decision-making they make as it pertains to Trent and what almost assuredly is going to be his final deal with the Niners. But they love him. They want him. He loves them. He wants them. And Lynch seems to be very confident they'll work it out. They're either going to release him and he's going to be a free agent, and the Niners are going to have to look for a whole new left tackle and rebuild their offensive line, or he's going to come back. They're going to extend him. There's going to be a small, medium, or large mountain of dead cap at the end of it that's going to have to be paid at some point. So that's my takeaway on the Trent thing. I think it does get done. I don't think they separate, but I do think they wind up extending him, which is not ideal for a 38-year-old player, and I do think they are going to be looking at a pretty large mountain of dead cap potentially tied to a Trent Williams extension. So something to look for. But what are the alternatives? Let him walk? You can tell Brock Purdy you have no blindside protector. Your offensive line is subpar, but you have the best left tackle in the game, and now you're going to take away the best left tackle in the game? I mean, how's Purdy going to react to that? How's the offense going to play without Trent? I don't believe that you can plug somebody in there and it will be fine. You saw Will Campbell. He was a blue chip left tackle taken in the top 5, and he got absolutely destroyed in the Super Bowl. So it's a really tough position to fill for a lot of reasons. One, it's hard to fill because these guys all basically go in the first round. 2, it's hard to fill because a lot of times the guys who step out of college and into the pros struggle. So now you're going to invest a first-round pick on a guy who's going to come in and struggle. So nobody's, lining up for that. So it's a very complicated thing trying to draft offensive tackles in the modern-day NFL when you work in the cap and trying to get the most out of players. It's a very difficult thing, and the Niners are going to have to do this tap dance. But it sounds like Lynch feels like they can come to some kind of an agreement. All right, that was meat and potatoes number 2. Deebo coming back is number 1. Number 3 on the list, the Niners defensive front, according to Lynch, and he stated it very plainly and very clearly, is their number 1 offseason priority. It's not the offensive line. It's not the wide receiver core. It is the defensive front, the defensive line and the linebackers. That makes up your defensive front. That's their number 1 priority this offseason. They need a pass rushing tackle. They need a major impact defensive end. They need at least 2 stacked backers. The other thing that I thought was interesting is when they got time to talk about Raheem Morris, Lynch said, hey, it was Kyle's decision, and then he said that he's known Raheem since their Tampa days. And he added that, that he feels that Raheem Morris is going to add variety to their defensive schemes. And I think what you're going to see there is you're going to see a little bit more variable fronts, and you may see some more 5-man fronts. You may see a lot more of that. You also are likely to see some different body types on the D-line. Niners have gone exclusively for these jumbo 270-pound defensive ends. What about the 230, 240, 250-pound guy that flies off the edge? Cassius Howell of Texas A&M, Bryce Huff, heck, this year. These smaller edge rushers. I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see the Niners kind of diversify the kinds of defensive lineman body types they go for in free agency and maybe most especially in the draft. You're going to see more 5-man fronts. You're going to see, I think, them add some situational rushers of different sizes that can be utilized in different spots in their 4-man rush and 5-man rush plans up front. So interesting there. The other thing, when John was asked about, hey, what's your philosophy in free agency? And he said, we want to be targeted in free agency. What does that mean? That means they need a left guard, and they may go try to sign a left guard. If I've thrown out Nick Allegretti a few times as a possible cap casualty of the Commanders, I think he would be a great fit. But I don't think they're going to make a bonanza strike in free agency. I think they're going to be very targeted. So, like, where are their targeted needs? Well, he just told you they need to improve their defensive front. They obviously need a left guard because they don't know about the future of Spencer Burford. They're really, really naked at linebacker and wide receiver. So they're going to be very targeted in free agency. So I think they're going to be looking for not the top tier guys. I don't think they're going to shop in the top shelf. I really don't. I don't think they're going to be a day one, day two type free agent team. I think people are going to be losing their minds when free agency starts because the Niners are going to be relatively quiet on day one and day two. And then I could see them going for some targeted players. Give you a couple ideas. Willie Gay, linebacker. They really, really need speed at linebacker. Gay's a free agent. He's out there. Receiver, Romeo Doubs, I think, would be a great fit for the 49ers on a lot of fronts. I think Wan'Dale Robinson would be a nice addition for them. 90 targets, I believe, the last couple of years for Wan'Dale on a bad Giants offense. So I think they want, look for them to target one or two or three needs and be aggressive at those guys, but don't expect the top guys. Expect them to be targeted for a left guard, possibly a receiver, possibly a linebacker. Those are the areas that they really got to get help right away. And I would say maybe even a defensive tackle that rushes the passer. David Onyemata makes a lot of sense. He was with Raheem Morris in Atlanta. They're going to be looking for a third tackle. They've got two young defensive tackles now. They're going to want a complementary pass rusher to go with those guys. A lot of times, that's a hard position to fill in the draft with young players. I could see them looking for that interior rusher third tackle in a guy like David Onyemata, who's a veteran. He's 30 plus. He's a really good technician. He can rush the passer. So they want to be targeted in free agency. Number one priority in the draft, as far as the number one priority, or I should say the number one priority of the offseason is they have to hit the draft. They got to hit the draft. He said it very clearly. He admitted that he's having trade talks right now with clubs in Indianapolis. He said the Brandon Ayuk exit will be finalized at the new league year in March, whether that's a trade or a cut. And as I said, they're clearly planning to bring Deebo back. And then he was asked two questions about the substation. And, the Billy Bean line, hope is not a plan. Well, it is a plan for the Niners because John Lynch was asked about the substation and is it going to affect free agency? He said, I hope not. Then he went on to say a Dr. Sills is a guy that they've talked to, and he's obviously they feel like he's got the answers. They say Dr. Sills says that the substation is not an issue in any way. So there you go. That's what Lynch said. There were other moments in this thing where he got into some other things I thought were interesting. He was asked about, what do you think of NIL? Is there any positives to NIL, with the name and likeness and college players making money? And he said, yeah, there's an advantage. You get to find out how a guy reacts to making some money. You got a lot more transfers than you used to have, but you also have guys who are going to fall into some cash, and then you're going to find out how they react to falling into some cash. So I thought that was interesting. He talked about how the tape is most important. The combine is nice, but the tape is the most critical part of the evaluation. But he said the meetings mean a lot. The intangibles matter a lot to them. You need to have mental fortitude to play this game. You got to be mentally strong. I thought that was interesting. I thought one of the most interesting nuggets was when he said that he talked about their approach. Every team's got a different approach to the interviews. You get to interview these players, like 30 of them or whatever it is, a number of players. Anybody you really want to interview, you can interview. And every team takes a different approach. Some teams are like, hey, ask scathing, tough questions that are going to put the guy on the spot. And let's see if he gets defensive. And let's see if he holds his poise. And let's see what he's about. And let's start digging at him. Other people, and then some teams want to talk to just the bad guys. Let's find everybody says this guy's a bad guy. Let's go talk to him. And let's say that guy's a bad guy. Let's go talk to him. Lynch made the point that the Niners like to talk to guys that they consider great leaders, as well as the guys who have question marks and character flags. And it was a great answer. He said, so we can feel what that great leader's addition to the room is going to feel like. And that's why we want to interview great leaders, because we don't just want to find out. It's not just a fact-finding mission. It's like there's a vibe that the guys who are the great leaders in college football, the guys that have the really high mark, says, oh, man, this guy's absolutely the kind of guy you want. That guy's got a different vibe, and they want to see what that vibe is like and then be able to compare that vibe to the guys who maybe have character flaws or attitude problems or, concerns from scouts. And so they can cross compare the different vibe in the room and whether they can live with it or not. I think it's genius. I really do. Go find out what the target is and see the impact of the positive guys, and then see the guy with the bad attitude and see how bad of an attitude it really is. I think it's interesting. I think it's really interesting. So there you go. There you go. That is the full breakdown of what Lynch had to say in Indy. I went on X and I typed in Deebo Samuel, looking for a bunch of people reacting to the presser yesterday, saying where he voluntarily, out of nowhere, when asked about wide receivers, says that one of the avenues is to bring back a former wide receiver. And it's so obviously and so clearly a reference to Deebo Samuel, and poof, nobody mentioned it. I mean, I saw a bunch of recaps of this. I didn't see anybody mention the real revelation that came out of the Lynch presser, which is that they are bringing back Deebo Samuel. All right. That is happening. He's 30. I don't want to see it. I don't know why they want to see it, but they're bringing him back. I would bet anything after listening to that they are bringing him back. So that's the most interesting part of this thing. Number 2 is the defensive front is their number one offseason priority. Not the offensive line, the defensive front. Thought that was really interesting. So look for them to draft D-line and linebacker probably multiple times. Look for Deebo to come back. I think they'll probably make a trade or two. I think they're going to be very active in the trade market. But a very interesting conversation there with John Lynch from Indianapolis. All right. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Sleeper for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube,